Hi, I'm Mike Chartrand. This is Varicocele Surgery Failure, my story, part 4, and I just wanted to do an overview of my story to put everything in context. Maybe some men who have had varicocele have had some similar experiences with pain, and they say to define yourself before your enemies define you. As I am making this video, Dr. Saltel from the University of Manitoba just hung up on my doctor after the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority arranged for him to collaborate with my family doctor to send me to Mount Sinai Clinic in Toronto. Now I'm thinking that urologists are frustrated because the surgery does fail, and then with those who have pain, um, I think that's why he's angry. Something is wrong with the way urologists in Manitoba treat varicocele. They do inguinal surgery, but we know that this surgery fails because of missed collateral veins. So I've written them and said this, so that's probably why they're angry. Yet they refer to ultrasound to say that my varicocele is not significant, when at the same time they know that ultrasound is not conclusive. Plus my scrotal contents expand and contract to 3 times the size on the left. And the Mayo Clinic diagnosed a definite varicocele on the right, but at least they honestly say that the left side is uncertain. Yet Dr. Saltel won't cooperate to send me for microsurgery or do a venogram here in Manitoba. In addition, I have a left inguinal hernia and my scrotum is twisted. On top of diffusely degenerated discs and no recognizable nucleus on the sacral disc, it is all the more urgent that everything possible is done for my varicoceles on both sides. So I'm going public and hope that something gets done for me here soon. And what about the other men who have had inguinal surgery for varicocele? 20% of surgeries done for pain failed to resolve the pain. Are you one of those men? I'd like to hear from you. Were you treated in the same way I am? Here's my story. I don't know if it's relevant, but my mom says, and I lean forward when I walk all my life, but she said I had a short esophagus and I was throwing up after every meal, basically constantly for my first year of my birth, and the doctor said that would go away when I started walking, and did. I don't know if it's the esophagus because of the way the testicles descend. That might be it. I don't know. I haven't been able to talk to anyone about it. I was the MVP in athletics, Westwood Collegiate, in grade 12. I won all the distance events. I ran 6 miles a day. When I was 25, I became a transit bus driver, and I was referred to a urologist when I was 25. It's actually a funny story because I was concerned that one of my testicles was too small, and the urologist says it happens to a lot of people. They're just veins, and wear tight shorts and don't worry about it. So I actually didn't think of it until just before the surgery. I met up with a running coach and started working out between shifts, driving transit bus. We had a 4-hour break in the middle of the day, so I had a left plantar fasciitis with orthotics. When I was 28, I won the overall Timex Road Racing Series in Manitoba and ran 31:30 10K at national championships. This is all to emphasize the cardiovascular system, that I had big veins, well-developed veins that stopped probably working. When I was 29, I ran 14:54 in the 5,000 meter, or the 5K. That's less than 5 minutes per mile. 7th place at national championships for track and field that year. And then after a 2-week break, I had a pain just inside the left hip bone, and that happens to be where the inguinal ligament is, and just under where they do the inguinal surgery. It only bothered me at that time, running between 4 and 5 minutes per mile. My left foot gradually started to turn inwards, and my hip began to stiffen. I could run 7 minutes per mile no problem at that time, but that eventually became difficult, and the turning of the ankle and the landing with it turned inward, I was landing on it wrong, even though Dr. Creighton was a sport and spine expert and he'd been encouraging me to run, so they didn't recognize the twisting of my hip and my foot, and didn't tell me not to run. But that jamming was definitely too hard, and the ankle got more and more sore, and things got worse. Doctors, physio, massage therapists, and coaches all had me doing stretching and exercise. All said to keep running. Orthopedic surgeons, neurological tests turned out negative. The first doctor I actually saw said the most intelligent thing. He says it's a chicken and an egg syndrome with the pelvis. He says it's difficult to tell where it started and how it began. That's the most honest thing I've heard from any doctor. Just that they don't know with pelvic pain. He said I had a leg length discrepancy, but my legs were the same length, and it was in the hip where I was twisted. Now that happens to people, but I'm wondering how many men with varicocele have that. So eventually, even church baseball and golf began to be difficult. I was doing less and less. I had several disc herniations bus driving, and I always related this to my hip, but my sports doctor related it to L5S1, and we were both right, I believe, for sure. I had a huge dispute with Winnipeg Transit on workers' compensation, supported by Dr. Neil Creighton, sport and spine expert, and he had been with me since my running days when I had asthma. I developed pins and needles in my legs when standing. I gradually could do less and less exercises for pelvic stability. I settled a human rights complaint and then started working at Handy Transit at a sit-stand workstation, specially designed ergonomic chair so I could lean back and sit or stand while working. So I developed pins and needles in my legs and buttocks while sitting, and I went to physiotherapy and had acupuncture for this. I began to have feelings of incontinence while doing the bridge exercise when I rested my sacrum on the floor. The left side twisted, and I had feelings of nausea and incontinence. I gradually lost the ability to do the exercise that Dr. Creighton gave me for pelvic stability. I described to Dr. Creighton that I had difficulty squeezing my abdominals, especially on the left. I described it was like squeezing a tennis ball that gets harder to squeeze the more you squeeze it. So the more I squeezed my abdominals, the harder it was to squeeze. It was intractable. It was hard to move down there. The physiotherapist recommended Kegel exercises, internal pelvic massage. I was weak on the left side. Eventually, doing the Kegels while I was working, trying to stay centered, pulled my legs together, and my scrotum began to burn like my legs were burning, and my testicles felt crushed between my legs. On a break from work, I borrowed a vehicle and drove to the hockey store and bought a jockstrap with a cup that protected my testicles between my legs, and that felt better. The next day, my hip felt looser and I lost a belt size. At this time, I think all this stuff would be probably more gradual with most men, but since I was a middle distance runner and competitive, the symptoms kind of came later and were maybe more drastic. At this time, I remembered my appointment with the doctor when I was 25. I was actually very happy because I was certain that my hip and back problems were because of the varicocele between my legs. At this time, I did not know the term varicocele, because I didn't remember it from when I was 25. On the third morning, I took off the jockstrap to shower. Gradually, the testicle felt heavier and heavier until I had to hold it up with my hand. Still, it brought me to the floor. My heart rate was very high, and I felt like I was punched in the gut. I felt like I got hit below the belt with a hockey puck. I felt like that all day. The testicle did not hurt, but my abdomen hurt. While this happened, I was not anxious at all. I was very happy because I was certain my hip felt looser, that my hip problems were because of the varicocele. I told this story to Dr. Creighton, and he said the varicocele was not directly related to my spinal problems, but that it might exacerbate them or make them worse. He referred me to Dr. Milner, who did the surgery. I actually saw a resident doctor who diagnosed me with grade 4 varicocele. The surgeon said it was in the top percentile that he had seen. He did no tests to find that the other side was also varicose. 8 months, that I had done at the Mayo Clinic. 8 months after the surgery, the size had not reduced very much, and he said that all he could do was to cut off the testicle. He never at any time explained there were other types of surgery or anything about the risks and benefits of each type of surgery. The only risk he talked about was infection. He never described the Valsalva maneuver. I went to another urologist 8 months later who said it was a varicocele, but that they usually wait a year before they do another surgery. Dr. Milner had not explained this, and he should have. After the surgery, I still had burning in my legs at work, and soreness around my anus increased and ached at night. I went to the Mayo Clinic, who diagnosed a definite varicocele on the right and poor blood flow, and an indefinite varicocele on the left side, where my surgery was. The Mayo Clinic tried to do a test on my spine that failed because my lumbar discs had too many holes and cracks in them. They would not hold air pressure. They pumped my discs with dye, and when they tried to pump air into my discs, all the dye came running out, instead of coming out slowly through one crack where they would identify the problem. The dye just ran all out at once. The solution that the Mayo Clinic gave was to fuse my lumbar discs. Dr. Creighton had recommended against this, and I did not know what to do, so I just came home. I was also out of savings, and I was desperate because I was unable to work. So I'm going to leave that first video there.